You're almost asleep. Your thoughts are already blurring, your body heavy, your breathing slow. The room is quiet, the lights are off, and for a moment you're barely even aware of your own body anymore. Time stops feeling linear. One thought slides into another without any real logic connecting them, the way it always does right before sleep actually takes hold. And then, a jolt. Your whole body jerks at once, like you just missed a step in the dark. Sometimes you even see it. A flash of falling downstairs, off a curb, off the edge of a roof, off nothing at all. For half a second, it feels completely real. More real than most of what you were just thinking about. Your heart is pounding. Your hands might even twitch outward, as if reaching for something to grab, some invisible railing your body is convinced should be there. A second later, you realize you were just lying in bed, perfectly still, perfectly safe, exactly where you've been the whole time. Nothing happened. You lie there for a moment, waiting for your pulse to settle, maybe feeling a little foolish, a little exposed, like your own body just embarrassed you in front of no one. And then, more often than not, you just drift back off, like it never happened at all. By morning, you probably won't even remember it. It'll just be one more small, forgettable glitch buried somewhere in the hours you spent unconscious. Here's what's strange. This happens to almost everyone. Studies show that 60 to 70% of people experience this from time to time. Not once in their life as some strange one-time fluke, regularly, across the years, without any obvious pattern to when it hits or why tonight and not last night. It's not rare, it's not a disorder, it's close to a default setting of the human body, wired in from the start. It even has a name. A hypnic jerk, sometimes called a sleep start, or a hypnagogic jerk, if you want the clinical version. It even shows up in children from the moment they're born, long before they could ever explain what they just felt. Doctors have been describing it for well over a century, and in all that time, across all that research, it has never once been reliably tied to any actual danger, any hidden illness, any warning sign worth losing sleep over. But here's the question almost nobody actually stops to ask. Why would the body do this at all? You're not falling, there's no danger, there's no predator in the room, no ledge beneath you, no cliff edge, nothing whatsoever to react to. And yet, the jolt, the burst of adrenaline, sometimes a full image of falling flashing in front of your eyes, vivid enough to fool you for a moment, convincing enough that your body actually braces for impact. Why would the brain manufacture an alarm this specific, this physically convincing, when absolutely nothing in the room has changed? Notice something else too. The jerk doesn't seem to hit everyone equally, or every night the same way. It tends to show up more when you're overtired, when you've been running on too little sleep for too many nights in a row. It shows up more after too much caffeine late in the day, or after an intense workout too close to bedtime, when the body is still humming with leftover energy it hasn't fully burned off. It shows up more during stretches of stress and anxiety, when the whole nervous system is running just a little hotter than usual. None of that tells you what the jerk is for, but it tells you it's sensitive to the state of the system as a whole, a small tremor that seems to get louder exactly when everything else in the body is already a little more on edge than normal. For a long time, science had one tidy answer, and it's a good story. Good enough that it became almost common knowledge. Repeated so often that most people assume it's settled fact. The idea goes like this. Our distant primate ancestors slept in trees. Not on the ground, but high up among the branches, out of reach of whatever was hunting on the forest floor below. Wrapped in the kind of darkness where you can't see your own hand, let alone the drop beneath you. And for a primate drifting off on a branch, there's one specific way to die. Relaxing too much. Muscles lose their tension, the body goes slack the way it's supposed to at the edge of sleep, and if the grip loosens at the wrong moment, a fall from that height in the dark is close to a death sentence. No warning, no second chance, no soft landing waiting below. Just a long drop through darkness and then nothing. By this theory, the jerk is one last check before consciousness switches off completely, a final gatekeeper standing between wakefulness and full unconsciousness. If the grip was weak, the jolt was meant to tighten it instantly, or shock the animal awake just long enough to grab hold again before gravity finished the job. And the falling sensation that sometimes comes with it isn't treated as a glitch in this version of the story. It's framed as the brain simulating the exact scenario it's trying to prevent, a kind of built-in rehearsal for the one mistake that couldn't be allowed to happen twice, because there'd be no one left to learn from it the second time. It's a clean story. It's logical. It's a little dramatic, and it makes for a great line at a dinner party, the kind of fact people repeat to each other for years without ever questioning where it actually came from. You'll still find it in almost every article about sleep, in almost every casual explanation anyone gives you if you ask why this happens, repeated with total confidence, as if it were as settled and as obvious as gravity itself. But there's a problem, and researchers have started noticing it more. Dogs twitch when they fall asleep, cats twitch when they fall asleep. So do plenty of other mammals that have spent their entire evolutionary history flat on solid ground, never once climbing a tree to sleep, never facing anything close to that specific danger. Neither of them has ever slept slept in a tree. And neither has an evolutionary history that includes one, not even a distant one buried a few million years back. If the jerk is a purpose-built defense against falling out of a branch, a survival tool sharpened by millions of years of natural selection to solve one very specific problem, why does an animal that has never once faced that danger anywhere in its lineage do the exact same thing, in the exact same way, at the exact same moment in sleep, as if it were running the same program for no reason at all? That mismatch is small on its own, easy to miss if you're not looking for it, but it's exactly the kind of small detail that quietly unravels a tidy story once someone actually stops to check it. And it's part of why scientists have been looking harder at a different explanation in recent years. It's a lot less romantic. There's no drama in it, no ancient forest, no near-death moment passed down through countless generations like some kind of inherited scar. But it might be a lot more accurate, and honestly, it might tell you something more interesting about your own brain than the tree story ever could. Here's what's actually happening when you fall asleep. It isn't a simple power down, like flipping a light switch from on to off in one clean motion. It's a managed handoff between two different control systems in your body, happening every single night without you ever noticing the mechanics of it, without any awareness at all that something this complicated is unfolding inside your own skull. While you're awake, your voluntary motor pathways, the ones that let you consciously move an arm or a leg whenever you want to, that let you reach for a glass of water or shift your weight without a second thought, are firmly in charge, running the show without any competition. But as you start to drift off, the brain gradually shifts control to a separate system, one responsible for keeping the body still and relaxed throughout sleep, so you don't act out your dreams or wander off in the middle of the night chasing something that only exists inside your own head. One system has to hand the controls to the other, smoothly, quietly, without either version of you ever being aware it's happening in real time. This handoff isn't instant. It isn't a single flip of a switch. It's closer to two systems slowly trading places over a span of minutes, overlapping briefly in the middle, each one only partially in control while the other one takes over. And it's exactly in that overlap, that brief and messy middle ground between one system letting go and the other one fully taking hold, where things can occasionally go a little sideways. Studies looking closely at the pattern of muscle activity during these jerks, one published in 2014, another in 2016, found something telling. The jerk doesn't spread through the body in an orderly wave, the way you'd expect from a coordinated, purposeful reflex, like the way your leg kicks in one clean motion when a doctor taps your knee with a small rubber hammer. Instead, the contraction fires almost simultaneously in unrelated muscle groups scattered across the body, arms and legs and torso all activating together with no clear sequence and no clear pattern connecting them. The researchers behind this work read that as a sign the signal originates deep in the brainstem, an old, primitive part of the nervous system, one that predates almost everything about conscious thought, wired in long before anything resembling deliberate planning ever existed, rather than in the cortex where deliberate, purposeful movement is normally generated and coordinated. In other words, this might not be an alarm, and it might not be a protective reflex at all, however satisfying that story is to tell. It might just be noise. One control system is powering down, the other hasn't fully taken over yet, and in that narrow, half-second gap between them, a stray signal sometimes slips through, like static crackling through a speaker the instant you flip a switch, a leftover burst of electricity with nowhere useful to go. It reaches the muscles before the brain's own inhibition has a chance to catch it and shut it down cleanly, and the body jerks, for no reason and no purpose, simply because the handoff between wakefulness and sleep isn't always perfectly clean, isn't always as seamless as it feels from the inside on the nights it goes smoothly. The falling sensation that sometimes rides along with it fits this story just as well as it fits the tree version, and arguably fits it even better once you look closely. As you drift off, your brain is already generating fragments of imagery on its own, what's known as hypnagogic hallucinations, the loose, dreamlike flickers and half-formed scenes that show up right at the edge of sleep, before you're even fully under, before your conscious mind has fully let go of the reins. When a sharp, unexplained signal arrives from the muscles right in the middle of that half-formed dream state, the brain has to make sense of it fast, has to fit it into whatever's already forming in that hazy space between thoughts. And the most obvious interpretation available to a brain that's hit with a sudden, unexplained jolt through the entire body is that you're falling, not because you actually are, but because falling is the simplest, fastest, most intuitive explanation the brain can reach for when it's hit with a sudden loss of stability and absolutely no clear cause to point to. So what's really going on when you jerk awake at the edge of sleep? Probably nothing dramatic. Not some inherited memory of falling from a branch, passed down through hundreds of generations from ancestors who never knew you'd exist and never imagined you'd be lying in a bed instead of a tree. Just two systems inside your own brain, missing each other by a fraction of a second, during one of the more complicated handoffs your body performs every single night. The shift from conscious control to complete helplessness, repeated on a loop for as long as you live. And honestly, that's worth sitting with for a second. Every single night, without exception, your body voluntarily shuts down almost everything that lets it defend itself. muscles go slack. Awareness fades out completely. Your ability to react to danger, to run, to fight, to even notice a threat disappears entirely for hours at a time. You become about as vulnerable as a living thing can possibly be, lying still in the dark with no defenses left. Given all of that, it's honestly not surprising that somewhere along the way, the system occasionally stumbles for half a second. What's actually surprising, if you stop to think about it, is how well it pulls this off almost every night, billions of times, across billions of people, with barely a single misstep worth noticing. The jerk itself lasts less than a second. It doesn't mean something is wrong with your sleep. It doesn't mean something is wrong with your heart, or your nervous system, or your brain. It doesn't mean your body is remembering a fall that never actually happened to you, or to anyone you're related to. It's most likely just a small glitch at the exact border between two versions of you. The one still holding the controls, still technically awake, and the one about to disappear into the dark without a single thought about it, without any awareness that the switch even happened. So the next time you jolt awake right at the edge of sleep, heart pounding for no reason, feeling that brief flash of fear over nothing at all, you can let it go completely. You weren't falling, nothing was wrong. It was just your own brain, for the last time before the day finally ends, handing itself off a little clumsily, the way it does every single night, whether you notice it or not.